Let the meltdown begin. MMA Meltdown on the Fight Network. I am Gabriel Morency. Let's do this thing UFC 184 style. We've got you covered. As Robin Black's going to join me in studio in a couple of moments' time. We're going to take a look at UFC 184 from a fantasy perspective. As we've got a $500 free roll up at countermove.com. It's great stuff, and even better, it's free to enter. $500 given away. You just got to pick 5 fighters. It's an intriguing card from a fantasy perspective. A lot of heavy favorites once again this week at UFC 184. Meanwhile, the bookies are still picking up the pieces following UFC Fight Night 661. And I got to tell you, man, I'm not a bookie, but I almost want to cry right now. And the fact that I see all these people out there cashing these fat-ass parlays. I feel like Homer Simpson. You know the episode when everybody at the plant sold their stocks? Lenny shows up like with solid gold teeth. Everyone's showing up in new cars. The Homer basically sold it for like 25 bucks. That's what I feel like. Everyone's cashing these $80,000 parlays, and I'm sweating out $100 parlays and losing. Some of these numbers, just to put it into perspective, 4 different people at one unnamed sports book. And I'm not giving the sports book the pleasure, so to speak. Don't think I don't know. Of course you're telling everybody you lost $1 million because you're trying to recoup the $1 million loss in free advertising. And it's working because every website in the freaking free world, hell, I think websites in North Korea are picking this stuff up. Ooh, look, that sportsbook lost $1 million. They're getting all the money back in free revenue. So I'm not giving you the benefit of the doubt. You're not tricking me. So, but nevertheless, they lost $1 million. One dude, $5 parlay, $36,000. 4 different people just put $1 parlay on all the underdogs. And, they had to do it again because it was 10 in a row that won after the first fight. But these people have put $1. They won $25,000, man. $25,000. Hell, in Buffalo, you can buy a house. All right, let's bring in Reed Kuhn, Fightnomics.com. Always a pleasure, Reed. How you doing?
I'm good. I'm also still kind of flabbergasted as to the card last week. It was pretty ridiculous.
I got to tell you, as somebody that lived in Vegas and that somebody is pretty much a degenerate gambler, I am aware. If you're at the roulette table and you see that it's come up, people are playing black-red and it's come up red 8 times in a row, you don't take black. You keep on riding the wave. Yet for one reason or another, I was under the belief that it was impossible. I'm like, this guy's not going to lose this next fight. But it was incredible. 10 in a row, Reed.
Yeah, 10 in a row. And that's not just the most number of upsets in UFC history on a single card. It's also the greatest degree of upsets. So I ran the numbers. I did the average winning or the average winner's odds. And basically the average winning fighter was a 2-to-1 underdog on average after you correct for implied winning percentage. So that significantly surpasses the prior record, which was a Brazilian fight card, Shogun versus Henderson, that had 9 out of 11 upsets, and one of them that wasn't an upset was actually a draw. So pretty close call. I never thought anyone would top that, and it's not even close after that. Basically, these 2 cards are just so anomalous in terms of how many underdogs hit. It's ridiculous. So, I'm going to do a little write-up on that because it's just so noteworthy. And, there's a few people that are just laughing all the way to the bank on their crazy strategy of just playing all the underdogs.
Yeah, and there's going to be a ton of people that are going to be putting together these underdog parlays this week. I think the favorites probably run the table. And one thing that I enjoy about your book, and you and I have talked about this in the past, is you break it down as far as nationalities are concerned. How do fighters do on their home soil against visiting fighters, and you compare different countries. Now, the Brazilians, that win rate continues to decline over the years. It used to be a dominant statistic, not quite as dominant anymore. But the fact is, if you look at the card from the other night, American guys were losing as favorites too. It wasn't just all the Brazilian guys losing. It was just every favorite was losing.
Yeah, historically, the Brazilians really came out of the gate on fire. They looked unstoppable. So their winning percentage was just through the roof. And then over the last year or two, it's stabilized, but it's still high. And you still do see that guys, other than in America, you see Canadians, Europeans, Asian fighters, and especially Brazilian fighters, they do tend to do better at home. Now, a lot of that is matchmaking because they are expected to win. And in the Brazilians' case, at least, They do actually outperform the betting line slightly. But again, as you pointed out, I think there is going to be some regression here because now it's not so crazy to be asked to go down to Brazil and fight on a fight card. And, back in the day, maybe you heard the fans screaming that you're going to die in Portuguese, and it freaked a few people out. But now a few guys have gone down there and done it a few times. So it will probably stabilize. But
yeah, we even saw Phil Davis.
Everybody losing, that was just remarkable.
We saw Phil Davis go down there and even get a decision against a Brazilian. Because, it's one thing to go in there and just dominate the fight and knock somebody out or win a decisive decision, but that Phil Davis-Machida fight was very close. I think you can make an argument that Machida actually won, but they gave it to Phil Davis. And I remember the Brazilian analyst, the Brazilian TV team, they gave it to Phil Davis as well. So I think that was almost the turning point in which people actually started to believe, you know what, we're not going to get screwed down there. We can win there.
Yeah, that's true. And actually, I did look at decisions versus finishes, and it's actually a mix of both. The fighters that are winning in Brazil are doing it both ways. The judges sometimes are judges that are flown down there. They're not always Brazilian judges, so the bias isn't inherent to them. I think a lot of it just has to do with the crowd noise.
Yeah, and it's crazy. People always talk about judges needing monitors and stuff. Maybe they need the silencer headphones. You know what I mean? Because it's amazing. They really do fall for this stuff.
That's an excellent point because it's been shown in soccer that referees, at least, are influenced by crowd noise. So it wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah, no, that is intriguing. So quickly, before we get to UFC 184, everyone's talking about, it's funny how Michael Johnson's performance sort of overshadowed by all the talk of the crazy parlays they hit and the betting stories. But Michael Johnson, very, very impressive to be off for the year long like he was, unfairly suspended. The guy was on a 3-fight win streak. I would say, I wonder where he would be if he didn't had this roadblock in front of him for the last year. But maybe it actually helped him physically a little bit. And he's a little bit fresher right now. But, Michael Johnson's been very impressive. And I think he deserves a shot against a fighter like Benson Henderson. Let's see Henderson, take on Michael Johnson. And let's give Johnson an opportunity to really start climbing the ladder because he's answered every call recently. 4 in a row right now.
He looks awesome. He really is the prototype of an excellent fighter. He's well-rounded. His striking has been very, very clean and crisp. He's got the power. So that was a great test for him against Barboza, to be able to go toe-to-toe for 3 rounds. There was virtually almost no ground game involved, and he was able to hold his own against one of the best strikers in history, and Edson Barboza. So, absolutely agreement. I want to see Michael Johnson take on someone towards the top and possibly position himself for a shot at the title.